Hey there, it's Kathy with Be Creative Kathy, and today we're going to put together our November Stamp Club card packets. So we're going to start with this red packet up here on top. If you missed my video, I showed you how I got the white to show up behind the red coloring on this door. So you got to go check out my video to see how I did that. Before we start though, on our supply list, I missed the paper trimmer, and you're going to need the paper trimmer because I made a mistake cutting the paper. So we're going to have to fix it really quick. So this black piece here, we need to it should be 2 3/4 inch or square. So we're going to cut that down first of all, real quick, to make our black piece, because this is one of my mistakes in the packet this month. I apologize, but it's a very easy fix. So we're going to cut this down to 2 3/4. And this one that used to fit on this one, this needs to be 2 1/2. So this white square that's in your packet, we're going to cut down. Sorry, let me try to get it. That one wasn't lining up right and I didn't like it. So 2 1/2 for this square so that they layer together nicely. So 2 1/2 and 2 1/2. So really what you're cutting off is a 1/2 inch from each side, and it's essential that you do that so it fits on the card. So now my squares are 2 3/4 and 2 1/2, and they layer nicely again. While we have our paper trimmer out, there's this piece here. It's a red piece that's 5 1/4 by 4 that's been embossed, and we need to cut this down. This is my, did I say 5 1/4? It's not. Yes, it's 5. Anyway, we need to cut this down to 1 and say, oh my goodness, 1 7/8. I couldn't even come up with the number. I know what the number is, I couldn't say it. 1 7/8. So it's just an eighth before the 2 inches here, and we're going to cut this basically in half. And you know what? This wasn't 5 1/4 by 4. This is 5 1/4 by 3 3/4. 3 3/4 divided by 2 is 1 7/8. There's your math lesson for the day. But now we're done with the paper trimmer. We can put that away. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get our card stamped. Let's do some stamping. So we're going to stamp on this piece. We're going to stamp on this piece, all 3 white pieces, and then you have a red strip like this, a banner. We're going to stamp on there too. So let's set this aside and do some stamping. Okay, let's start first of all with, we're going to stamp our reindeer. And let me find the stamp set. It's over here. We're going to use this deer right here to stamp our reindeer. Now, when I put my reindeer on before, I noticed that it was on there and it was like disconfigured. It just wasn't the right shape. So I'm going to set it on here, making sure that it's not crooked or bent or anything, because you know those photopolymer, you can bend and shape, right? And I'm going to turn this over because now this is clean. And I'm going to stamp my deer here in Memento black ink. This way, when I use the die to cut him out, it will line up better. Whoops, a little sticky there. Okay, we're going to stamp him right here on the scrap. Now we have our square, we have our inside. This is just a scrap. We're going to stamp him down, let that black ink do its work. I'm using Memento black ink because I'm going to color him with Crumb Cake Stampin' Blends. But before I do that, I'm going to take this little stamp from the stamp set, and I call that a harness, and we're going to harness our deer. So in real red ink, I'm going to stamp. I think I just put my thumb, I did in ink, but very little, so maybe it won't get all over my card. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to just hover over my deer until I see those black outlines and it looks right on my little harness. I might get my head in the camera, just forgive me. I'm going to pull it down here so I can see and watch those little black lines appear on both his neck and his tummy, and then just stamp it down right there. Now, sometimes you do great, sometimes you don't, but it should look something like that. And honestly, I did pretty good that time. I'll take it. Okay, let's hurry and color. Well, while we have our red ink out first, we're going to stamp this stamp here that says, may all your days be full of cheer. I'm going to stamp that on the inside, which is this piece, 5 1/4 by 4 of basic white. And I'm going to just take this and I'm going to stamp it right here on the inside of my card. Since we had the red ink out, might as well do all the red stamping at once. Okay, let's put that away so I don't get any more fingers in the ink. And let's color our deer. Like I said, I'm going to use crumb cake markers. I don't know, I'm not going to do shading or anything. I'm just going to color him with the dark crumb cake. And we'll see, where's my sample card? I should have it out here so you can see it. There's the one, and then this is the one we made on Zoom. So there's two of them there. I'm going to just color them and we'll see if this is dark, which I bet you this deer is dark and this deer is light. But I don't think it makes much difference. I just want a brown deer, not a white deer. No, I think this is dark and both of those were light. But like I said, I'm going to avoid his ear, make the inside of his ear white. And I'm going to avoid getting inside of that harness. I want to keep it white and red. So I'm going to just go around like this, around the harness. Get this little section in here. And I like to turn my paper so I can see where the tip of the nub part of my marker is, so I stay in the lines. And I do little brush strokes on little spots because the Stampin' Blends tend to bleed, which sometimes is very nice, especially when you're coloring. You don't get those brush marks because of that. But sometimes it takes you out of the lines, and I want to try to stay as best I can in those lines. Now I'm going to avoid his chest. You can see here I like to leave the chest white. So I'm going to just come and then get in between all those little circles on his harness, leave those white. Won't take long. I thought about doing this in advance, but I thought I'd show you the couple little things, be like his chest and his harness and stuff, and how I rotate the paper to make sure to help me stay in the lines. He does look good though. Okay, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to do any blending. I'm just going to do a simple color job and get my deer. Hold on, I got a tricky area right there. So he's brown instead of white. And I did leave the little underside of his tail white too, because I think that's what a deer would look like. Okay, and get this up here. So don't forget this leg here, and then the back of his leg here. And there you go, just like that. Now I think, nope, I think he looks good just like that. I'm not going to do anything more to him. We'll cut him out in just a second. Let's finish our stamping. Okay, now I'm going to use some Balmy Blue ink and the little snowflakes, which I have fallen in love with, these little snowflakes and dots right here. And I'm going to just cover this piece with some Balmy Blue snowflakes. Now, I think this stamp is very user-friendly so that we can get the whole thing covered. Wait, I missed a spot up here. It needs to have one little, yep, that looks good. Most of this is going to be covered, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm trying not to leave any white places or any bare places on my cardstock. Try to put snow everywhere. Here, and then one down here. And there you go, that simple. Maybe you can't see it. Oh yeah, you can see it nice. That's what that looks like. I want to bring a little bit of those snowflakes to the inside, so I'm going to just stamp around my greeting like that. So now we have those three pieces stamped. Let's bring in this little banner right here, another strip of real red. And I've already notched the ends to make it look like a banner for you. I'm going to use my embossing buddy here. Get all that static off that paper so that my embossing powder only sticks to the Versamark ink that I'm going to use next. So with Versamark and that Merry Christmas right here in the stamp set, I'm going to emboss, heat emboss, that is, the Merry Christmas. Make sure I get some ink on there. Might get my head in the camera again, excuse me. Try to get it straight and lay that right there. Let that ink really sink in and saturate my paper. And then with some white embossing powder, take my little banner, cover that Versamark with the white embossing powder, kind of flick off some extra little specks and such. Okay, then I'm going to hold on to that with my tweezers so I don't burn my fingers, making sure I got all the little extra. There's no extra embossing powder. We'll just melt that embossing powder onto our paper, and you can tell that you're done when it turns all shiny again and doesn't have any powder look to it. So what we're doing is melting that embossing powder, I hope you can hear me, onto our cardstock. Just like that. And now we have that pretty white Merry Christmas on our red banner, which I'm sure all of you have embossed before, and there you go. Okay, last thing we need to do to our cardstock so we're ready is we need to die cut this little deer out using the dies that coordinate with the stamp set that we're using. Whoop, that's the wrong dies. Those are different dies. Here they are, these dies here. We're going to take that little deer that matches this stamp. And I just have a piece of Post-it tape here. I'm going to make sure that he holds still as I put him on my machine. And now that I've repositioned my stamp, he looks so much better on there. He's going to cut out really nice. Okay, set that. Bring in, I'm just using a mini die cut machine since we're doing little pieces. I have all my plates here. Let me get a piece of paper stuck off my plate. Set my little deer on there. And then run that through our machine, and then we have a deer all cut out for us. No fussy cutting for this one. Okay, and now it's time to assemble and to put our card together. There's our little deer. Put that back where we can find him again. Okay, bring in that red card base. Let's bring in all the pieces we have all ready to go. You can see this as a reference. So I have now the card base. You'll notice that I've only scored it on one side, depending how you're holding it. So I'm going to fold this back, get my bone folder and get a nice, now the only reason I fold on one side, because my original card, you can see this little strip here. When I embossed both sides, it left a little gap in the middle. I don't want that gap. So I'm going to bring this side over to this piece and lay them so they're flush, and then fold that card. And now we won't have that gap in the center when we fold our card shut like that. Okay, now let's go ahead and put the inside of our card in there. Lay that inside with some nice borders there. Looks like that. Okay, and then we're going to layer these two pieces onto those two front of our gatefold. I'm going to use liquid glue. When I emboss things, dry embossing, my preferred, I guess you'd say, adhesive is liquid glue, and then that doesn't flatten out all that embossing we just did with the pressure of the glue, or with the tape runner. So I'm going to just take this, and I'm even going to go this route, and I'm going to center it right here on this side. And I really didn't worry about lining up that embossing folder again. You could be careful how you cut it to make sure they line up again, but it's a kind of embossing folder where I don't think that matters. So then I'm going to take this one and lay it on the other side. And there we have the basics of our card. Let's go ahead and take this white piece and layer it onto the black. Now that we've cut them down and they're the right size, that nice thin border. We're only going to glue, we're going to turn it into a diamond. Now it's a square, we're going to turn it into a diamond shape, and we're only going to glue it onto this one side panel. So I'm only going to put glue on one side of the diamond, not the square, of the diamond. And it doesn't matter with the snowflakes on there. I guess if you have a side you like better that you want to be the top, but I don't think it matters. But see how I've just put glue on the one side, And then I'm going to open this. I'm going to take this, making sure I had my glue, and I'm going to line it up with this edge here, corner to corner. So just that simple. And set it down. Now I'm going to open it up and make sure there's no glue here. If there was glue, I just simply take my adhesive eraser and take that right off. But now we have a card that opens up like this. Okay, let's go ahead and finish everything. We're going to take our Christmas greeting and we're going to lay that right here on our basic beige. And it should be just a little bit larger than the basic beige, and does, let me see if I got it straight and centered. The easiest way is to turn it over, and if you see the same end on the same side here, the same amount of paper, then you did good. Then I'm going to just layer this right to the front, making sure I don't have too much over here. Well, I might have to erase that because we don't want this over here to stick to our card. So I'm going to just take this and lay it right here. Try to make it straight. There we go. And then make sure, nope, I just barely missed, so there's no adhesive here. So then it lays like that on our card. Now we just need to add our deer. So I'm going to use dimensionals. Let's see. Well, where are my dimensionals at? Oh, here they are. Okay, and just a couple dimensionals on our deer. Oh, wait, let me make sure I poke out this little place right here. We don't want that. Now his leg looks better. I'm going to just add a few dimensionals to his body and then one up here to his head. And then lay that right here on the front of our card. Now, in your packet, you have these 3 little snowflakes. I put the largest here, the medium here, and the small down there. I don't have any in my packet, it looks like. I probably didn't put them in my packet because I have a whole package right here. So let me just quickly add one. A little one up here, and then those big ones. I do love these snowflakes, especially when we have big areas like this that were kind of bare. Look how pretty those snowflakes fill those in nicely. So there you go, as easy as that. That is card number 1. Okay, let's clean up just a little bit and then we'll go to card number 2. Part of our cleanup is to make sure that you clean, and I'm looking for, here's my chamois, that you clean this Merry Christmas stamp because we're going to use it again. And we don't want Versamark all over on it. We're going to use Versamark on just part of it. So I want to make sure that my stamp is nice and clean. And then let me test it on a piece of scratch paper. Yep, okay, now it's clean. How do I know that? Who knows? Because it was Versamark, so Versamark is clear. But I'm pretty sure I got it nice and clean. Okay, let's go to this cards. I'm going to get rid of that balmy blue. We won't need that. I'm going to keep the Versamark. I'm going to get rid of the black ink, but we do need some red. So in my packet here, we have lots of pieces. We have our card base. We have 2 basic white, which are exact same size. One is the front, one is the inside. So I'm going to hang on to that, and we're going to stamp on that one. We have this, like the back side of our Christmas, and then the front, because we're going to layer them, is our blingy Christmas. We're going to set that aside. We have 2 circles that layer nicely together, and we have our designer series paper, our embossed piece, our deer, our ribbon, and then this little banner right here, and this is what we're going to stamp on. So first I'm going to stamp on this piece. I'm going to use that same saying for the inside, the may all your days be filled with cheer, maybe your dreams too. I'm going to stamp that on the inside just like we did on the other one. Let that ink sink in. Okay, done with the red. Bring in that Versamark. And on this little piece here, first thing I'm going to do is use my embossing buddy because I want a nice crisp embossed, heat embossed image. Maybe. Do you see how it slides away from me? Okay, we'll set it there. And then with that Merry Christmas stamp, I only want to ink up the Merry. So I'm going to be careful with my Versamark. And I'll tell you what, the first time I did this, I had no trouble. It went smooth and easy. I thought, perfect, that's what we'll do for club. And then the second, third, fourth, fifth, I've struggled a little bit. So we'll see if I can get it straight. But I'm going to ink up just that Merry, making sure I don't get any ink on my Christmas. Can you see that? And then I'm going to stamp it down. Now I'm really going to look at the bottom of my stamp. I think that might help. We'll see. And the bottom of the cardstock to try to get it low and straight. And my head's going to come in the camera. Maybe, maybe not. Try to get it in between, a little bit lower. Make sure it's straight. Drum roll, please. Oh, and I did really good that time. Maybe practice makes perfect, and a little bit more practice and I'll be able to do it every time. But now I don't know if you can see it, but on the Versamark, oh yeah, you can. I have that Merry all stamped right there. So I'm going to hang on to it with my tweezers so I can dip it into my embossing powder. And we're going to emboss it in white again. A little embossing powder on there, tap off the extra. Make sure, I'm going to use a paintbrush here and try to get the flicks out of these crevices or these marks here. There we go. And now let's melt that embossing powder. And there again, when it starts to turn shiny and isn't a powder anymore, then you know that it's all done. All melted on there. Okay, now I think we have all of our pieces and parts. Let's go ahead and assemble. Oh, no, one more thing. Beg your pardon, got ahead of myself. This little deer here, this is a piece from the Designer Series paper. We need to cut him out again with that same die that we used on the last card. Let's take him and line him up. And take my time and just kind of turn my die until I don't see any more white on the edges. And then I think he looks good just like that. I'm going to use my Post-it tape again to tape it down. Bring in my machine and my plates. Kind of a last check to make sure he still looks good. I think he looks okay. Let's see how I did. Oh, it did move a little bit. But, well, maybe not. He looks pretty good. Nope, looky, my little deer right there. Nice job, Kathy. Thank you. Okay, now we have all of our parts to put our card together. Now, let me tell you something. So the Designer Series paper, and in fact, I worried, and you can tell from my samples, I did not use the one that's die cut. There's lots of other little deers on the Designer Series paper. If you decide to make these cards, you can get lots. I just cut a few out here. So really, all of these deer you could use on your card. If you bought the Designer Series paper. I wanted to make it easy on you, so I gave you all the ones that you can die cut, and then I fussy cut some other ones for my samples. Okay, now let's go on. So we're going to take our card base, we're going to fold it in half. There we go. And then this piece, this is our inside. We're going to go ahead and put that on the inside of our card. Unless, of course, you want to stamp some more. There's lots of images in the stamp set. You could stamp something else on there. I'm going to just leave it as is for now. I could always stamp something on there later. There we go. Now on this piece, we're going to take our Designer Series paper, and I'm going to put it on there at the top and make sure that the borders on three sides, the top, the left, and the right, are all even. I'm not going to worry about the bottom because it's not going to cover the whole piece of paper. So it looks like that. Nice little white border. Can you see it with the white sides? A nice little border on those 3 sides. And then with this piece, and again, I'm going to use my liquid glue. This is embossed with the plaid folder that goes with the suite with the reindeers. I'm going to just take this piece and I'm going to do the same thing now, not worrying about the middle or the tummy as I like to call it. I'm going to make sure this has the same borders down here at the bottom, not worrying about what's in the middle. Like that. There we go. Now I'm going to just add a little bit of tape runner right here. Now I know that my circles are going to cover that up, so in case it shows through your ribbon with the pom-poms here, you will cover up with that because we don't want to show, you know, sometimes when you tape ribbon down, it shows through the ribbon, and that's what we don't want. Okay, I have that right where I want it. I'm going to turn it over and then just tape these down. Now I'm going to put this up on dimensionals, and that way to give room for my little button or my little pom-poms. If you don't want to put this on dimensionals, you could also just trim it here and have your ribbon go across and end here, but I don't like that look, so that's why I chose to put it up on dimensionals. So just a few dimensionals here. And because that ribbon's there, I'm going to put a couple on in the middle. And then avoid that ribbon area, and that gives that room. Okay, and then set this on the front of our card. Try to get it straight. I can't tell, but there we go. It's straight like that. Okay, let's layer our circles. They're going to go on next. Because it's a circle, I'm going to use my liquid glue, and then that way if I need to, I can slide it around and get the borders even. Like that. That looks pretty good. And then I'm only going to put a dimensional at the top and the bottom, and that way it'll go over the ribbon instead of adhering to the ribbon. Like so. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and do our Merry Christmas. So we have Merry here and Christmas and our dear, really. So we need to take this. This is glimmer paper that I have turned into a sticker with adhesive sheets. So we're going to pull that Merry Christmas right off the glimmer page, and it's probably going to change the shape of it, but we can fix that in just a second here. So we pulled that Merry Christmas off carefully, not to tear it. And then I'm going to start with the C. And you can just lay it back onto this red piece and then shape it as you go. Well, maybe you can. I'm having a heck of a time getting it started. There we go. And the good thing about the adhesive sheets is that if you need to pull it up a little bit and replace it, you certainly can. But this way, I'm going to make sure I get a nice border all the way around our Christmas here. Like that. And just take your time and make your Christmas look good. Excuse me. And then you have a Christmas that looks like that. Now, don't forget to dot your eye. I'm going to use my Take a Pick tool. Whoop, here it is. I almost used a dimensional instead. And pluck that little eye out of there, which really is not a dot. It looks more like a triangle to me, but it fits perfect right here. I'm going to get it on there, and then I'm going to move it a little bit where I want it. And look how pretty that is. Now we have our layered Christmas. Okay, now there's room for dimensionals on the back, and I want it to lay right the same level as my circle, but it's going to hang off a little bit. So I'm going to put some dimensionals here and here and here. And I think I can use the big dimensionals. Yep, look, they even fit on there. Last time I think I used mini, which worked out just fine too. And then I'm gonna actually take a little piece down here for my dimensionals and just cut this. This tends to work perfect right there. Where'd it go? Here it is on my scissors. I was like, where'd it go? And then I'm gonna lay this right here on the edge of my C so he can be bumped. Now this is gonna be on my circle. You could certainly add adhesive there. I just don't think it's necessary, so I'm gonna just lay it like this. There we go. Now I can feel that dimensional come up to the circle, and it looks like, and it's crooked. Let's fix that. Nope, I need to lower this side. There we go. Now it's straight. Much better. Okay, I'm going to put my deer onto dimensionals and put him on next. And do like I did before, just a couple dimensionals on his body and one little dimensional on his head. His little legs could probably use dimensionals, but they're so skinny, I'm not going to try. I'm going to just lay him like that. Now, if you want his legs to be lifted and stay that way, what I suggest is you do this. So I'm going to put my Mary right there, maybe a little bit lower, like there. Keep going lower and lower. So really, I'm going to put dimensionals in the middle of my Mary, and I'm going to use mini dimensionals. Ooh, and this one's almost gone. I'll have to get some more. But lay my dimensionals here. And let's see where that falls with my deer. So I want to put just a little bit of glue on his legs here so they don't look like they're stuck to the paper, and yet they'll stick to my Mary rather than, let's see, did it fit that other, cover the other foot? Yeah, it sure did. This one too. And then just set this right there, right on his feet. I missed a little one there, but I think that looks pretty good right there. And then we have our merry little Christmas card just like that. And look how cute they are with all those other little different deer. Okay, let's bring out the other card that we made. These are the ones from my sample and from the Zoom class today. We need to run our bone folder over this one more time because he is not laying flat and not cooperating. Bone fold there. There we go, that's better. The more you open and close him, pretty soon he'll lay flat no matter what. And then the card that I made for you, we'll bring in that one too. And there you go. So that's how you put together November's Card Club Placket. Thanks for being a part of my card club. Have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you back in January. Be sure and watch the mail. The next mini catalog should be arriving about the middle of December. And I'll reach out so we can talk about what bundle we want to use for January and February. Take care. Bye-bye.